Good morning, Read 180 students. Today is Friday, May 15th, and we are on lesson 15 in workshop 3. We're getting ready to wrap this up here early next week, so just a couple more lessons in here and we will be done. We're going to continue with talking about making inferences using dystopian literature. And today we're actually going to be reading some text. It is an excerpt, which means it is a section or a piece from a novel. And this one happens to be from The Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins. Now, some of you are probably familiar with the name. You probably have seen advertisements on TV. There's movies out. There's the series of books you've probably seen in the media center, or maybe you've even read them. So today what we're going to do is continue to work on making inferences. So kind of trying to help better understand a text when things really aren't clearly laid out or clearly spoken to us. Okay. So if we look on pages 158 and 159, we're going to continue that study of dystopias with this excerpt from The Hunger Games, and hopefully by looking at some close reading pieces and looking at kind of what the characters say and do, we can maybe get a better understanding about this story or this excerpt from The Hunger Games. So what we'll start doing first is looking at our two vocabulary words. And if you look on the left-hand side, we'll do this like we did yesterday. The two words are remain and require. Now, both of these words are verbs or action words. And you'll notice on the side I have written out the definition or the meaning. So if you could copy that into your real book, you can take pause my recording to do that. But I'm going to keep talking through both of those words and giving you examples. So our first word is remain. To be left over after other parts are used or destroyed. And my example would be, after students leave for the day, I often remain in the classroom to plan the next day's instruction. Now you're going to answer this question. What does your school do with students' items that remain unclaimed? Remember that big table in the lunchroom that we lay things out kind of a couple different times during the year? So what does your school do with those things? You'll be able to answer that one pretty easily. Your next word is require. And require means to make it mandatory. And mandatory means that you have to do it for someone to do something. So you don't really get a choice. It's mandatory that you go to school. Another example using the word require is the school requires that all students treat one another with respect. So again, the word requiring meaning it is mandatory. You might have a mandatory curfew when you need to be in the house in the evening. You might have a mandatory homework time or a mandatory bedtime. That means your parents require you to do that. Okay, and then you're going to finish this example or answer this question. If you ran your school, what course would you require every student to take? So I'd like you to fill that in and give a reason why. Okay, so again, we know that The Lottery was a short story about a dystopian world that did not appear so at first glance. Remember, at first it's kind of like, oh, this is kind of we didn't understand really how upsetting that lottery was to people till we really finished the whole story. In The Hunger Games, it's clear from the start that Suzanne Collins has created a society in which children are used to enforce an evil government's ideas. So we're going to read just the first part of it today, starting on page 158. All right. An excerpt from The Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins. 16-year-old Katniss Everdeen lives in the country of Panem. Each year, 2 young people from each of Panem's districts are chosen by lottery to participate in the Hunger Games, a violent fight to the death. Katniss, her younger sister Prim, and her friend Gale are among those whose names are in the lottery this year. In the following excerpt, Katniss describes what happens. All right, so starting with paragraph 1. Just as the town clock strikes 2, the mayor steps up to the podium and begins to read. It's the same story every year. He tells of the history of Panem, the country that rose up out of the ashes of a place that was once called North America. He lists the disasters, the droughts, the storms, the fires, the encroaching seas, which means advancing kind of beyond the boundaries or the limits, that are swallowed up so much of the land, that brutal war for what little sustenance remained or was left over. Okay. The result was Panem, a shining capital ringed by 13 districts, which brought peace and prosperity to its citizens. Then came the dark days, the uprising of the districts against the capital. 12 were defeated, the 13th obliterated, and obliterated means to be destroyed or done away with. The Treaty of Treason gave us the new laws to guarantee peace and, as our yearly reminder that the dark days must never be repeated, it gave us the Hunger Games. The rules of the Hunger Games are simple. In punishment for the uprising, each of the 12 districts must provide one girl and one boy, called tributes, to participate. The 24 tributes will be imprisoned in a vast outdoor arena that could hold anything from a burning desert to a frozen wasteland. Over a period of several weeks, the competitors must fight to the death. The last tribute standing wins. Taking the kids from our districts, forcing them to kill one another while we watch, this is the capital's way of reminding us how totally we are at their mercy. And mercy means kindness or compassion toward another person. How little chance we would stand of surviving another rebellion. Whatever words they use, the real message is clear. Look how we take your children and sacrifice them, and there's nothing you can do. If you lift a finger, we will destroy every last one of you, just as we did in District 13. To make it humiliating as well as torturous, the capital requires, or makes it mandatory, to treat the Hunger Games as a festivity. A sporting event pitting, and pitting means to compete against another person, pitting every district against the others. The last tribute alive receives a life of ease back home, and their district will be showered with prizes, largely consisting of food. All year, the capital will show the winning district gifts of grain and oil, and even delicacies like sugar, while the rest of us battle starvation. Okay, so that's all we're going to read for today. Now, one of the things I forgot to do, first of all, was the key idea. And so if you need to go back and, reread something, go ahead and do that. But at the top of page 159, in your own words, tell me, what are the Hunger Games? So the Hunger Games are what? Okay. Now, the next thing we're going to do is look at making inferences. And so to better answer this question in the making inferences section, you're going to read this first. Based on Katniss's description of the rules of the Hunger Games, how does she feel about the event? Now, what I'm going to have you do is reread paragraphs 3 to 5 to see if you can find some text evidence to answer that question. And I'm going to actually, maybe if you get stuck, I'm going to direct you to paragraph 5. There are some words like humiliating and torturous. So if you kind of know what those words mean, or the feeling that she has using those words, that might be you might be able to answer that question a little bit easier. And then the last thing you're going to do on this page is the stretch question. So using text evidence and your own background knowledge to explain, why does the mayor read the history of Panem every year before he starts before they start the Hunger Games. So again, kind of go back into the text, see if you can find, why do you think that's important? Why does he make sure that he does that at the beginning of the games? Okay, so those are the only things you have to do in today's lesson. Again, once you're done, you can take pictures of pages 158 and 159 and then submit it in Google Classroom. Again, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to get a hold of me. Now, I just kind of want to remind you as well, since I have you listening to this, next Friday, May 22nd, will be the last day of assignments. It'll be the last things that we will be assigning for grades. And so if you are behind in anything, if you have some bell work to finish or reading logs to submit, make sure that you get those completed and turned in by May 22nd. We will be working on grades the following week. And again, there, if you have any questions about if it's been submitted or not, you can go ahead and check Student View. I'll have grades completed this weekend, so you'll see if you're missing anything. But again, if you have any direct questions, don't hesitate to email me or give me a call. All right, I'll let you get to work, and you have a good rest of your day. Miss you guys. Goodbye.